Good morning. Everything working? Sound is on. I am here. Welcome. It's just me today. My guest is going to be coming tomorrow at 10 instead of today, which works out great because I'm looking at this collar and I don't like it and I want to redo it. So that's what we're working on today. So, yay. All right, what do I not like about this collar? It's not laying flat. It's not laying nicely. My top stitching is sloppy, and I don't hate the pattern, but I know what I need to do to make it better. It wasn't hard, so I'm just going to redo it. Okay, what am I going to redo to make it significantly better? I am going to use spray starch. I'm going to spray starch my fabric before I even cut it out. I am going to do a narrower seam allowance. Instead of doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I'm going to do a 1/4 seam allowance. But I'm going to leave it 1/2 inch at the neckline where it's going to be sewn in with the rest of the cape. But I am going to take in this curved part here, a 1/4 inch, because it's a 1/2 inch right now, and I'm going to take it down to a 1/4 inch. So, oh, volume is a bit low. Maybe is it because I'm not talking into the microphone? Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I don't really know how to fix the issue. If it's really an issue, I will work on it. Welcome, not top. Hold on, let me see if I can do something about this. Okay. Turn this up. Testing. All right, I don't know what I'm doing. It's okay, though. Anyways, I will try and talk loudly and into the microphone. But I am going to take off 1/4 inch. Let me... I'm really going to eyeball this because I'm changing the shape as I go too. And I know exactly where I'm taking it off. This curve was a little too pointy for me and I wanted it more rounded. All right. There we go. Okay. All right, before I start cutting it out, I do want to starch my fabric. I have my scrap fabric here. This is a silk chiffon. I have a straight edge here that I tore, so I know that this is straight of grain. Because it is a scrap piece, it's a little hard sometimes to figure out where your grain line is, especially in a lightweight fabric. But I have my starting line. Let me just push this out of the splash zone. This whole table will be a sticky mess by the time I'm done with it. Oh well. Let me let the iron heat up for just a little bit. It is not quite hot yet. How are you guys doing today? How is your morning going? Good morning, Michael Schnell. Yes. Oh, so, yeah. This morning, I'm eating more humble pie. I am redoing that collar because I'm not satisfied with the way it looks. It works good enough if I want it to be done, but I actually want to be proud of this thing when I'm done with it, so redoing it. This silk creped up. You guys cannot see the texture change, but it's wrinkly over here, but it's a smooth texture that's just been wrinkled. But when this silk touches moisture, it crinkles the whole surface of it. That's why it's really difficult to spot treat. You have to clean the whole thing. You can't just spot treatment it. But I am doing the whole thing, so it does change the texture of the fabric, which is really interesting. Heat can mess with your fabric, so can water and moisture. Most of the time it goes back to normal pretty quickly, but can't guarantee it. Just patience. Okay. Heat that up. I can already feel the difference. This has a little more body to it where this is still really drapey. So what am I spraying on this? I'm spraying spray starch. It's adding more so some people use paper, tissue paper, or other stabilizers to keep their fabrics from mushing around on them when they're sewing drapey, silky fabrics. But you can also use starch as a stabilizer. It washes out pretty nicely. I don't want to spray all my equipment. It's so calming and peaceful, just pressing it. So the fabric feels a little bit heavier, a little bit crispier, and a little crunchier. I don't know if that's necessarily a great thing or a terrible thing, but 'tis what it is. All right, where's my pattern? There it is. I need a little more space. Okay. Okay. Oops. All right, this thing is not being my friend. It's okay. We got this. Okay. I have a whole spot here of just spray starch. Okay, Michael Snell, what kind of garments are your favorite to make? That's a very good question. Honestly, crazier the better. That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't. I'd say floofy dresses, but I got to make so many floofy dresses that they're no longer my favorite. Crazy costumes, but then different parts and pieces all have their own unique challenges. I don't know. I don't know what my favorite garments are to make. Anyways, let's see. Fold this. There we go. Place this on the fold, and I'm going to use a pin this time to cut it out just. Because my pin's right here. Floofy? What's floofy? It's like fluffy and poofy. Floofy. I like having floofy hair and floofy dresses. They're fun. All right. Use my bent-handled shears this time. Make sure that I'm straight of grain, because if it's off grain, it will twist, and I do not like it when it twists. Hold on. Ooh, Toxic Toad, favorite franchise to make from? Ooh, that one's really tricky. Alice in Wonderland, I made the Mad Hatter hats. Those were super fun, and then to do like the Queen of Hearts in there too. But I don't know if that's my favorite. I just really enjoy doing like Mad Hatter tea parties at the costume shop. I've done an awful lot of Star Wars. Not an awful lot, but recently. This is already feeling nicer to cut out. And I have a Star Trek shirt right there that I was looking at going, I found it for $1 at Balling Prices. And so I grabbed it. I'm like, I have to do something fun with this, but I haven't decided what yet. Okay. Now that I made one, I'm going to cut the rest out full not on the fold, just because I want it. I feel like this side right here needs a little more starch, because I can see the line of where the starch didn't quite get over here, so I'm just going to add a little more. Favorite franchise? I do like Avatar, The Last Airbender, and there are definitely more costumes that I want to do for that. My sister wants to be Toph, so... Oh, I guess that must have been on the silk. Michael Snell, how does one make a top hat? It was actually considering making one for a costume idea I had. I actually really love millinery work. Making hats is one of my favorite things to do. So you can do it the quote unquote correct way. I'm kind of fussy cutting around this spot because I don't want to deal with it. But we ended up using plastic canvas, that stuff that they use, plastic canvas, how do I explain it? It's like a plastic grid that you use yarn on to create Barbie furniture in my head, but more three-dimensional yarn crafting projects, really popular in the 70s. I don't know. But we used plastic canvas because it was a really good lightweight base that we could make the tall height of the hat. Because at the costume shop I worked at, when we would finish a project, we'd throw it on the ground and kick it because it was the rental test. If it couldn't survive the rental test, it wasn't worth it having it in the shop. So like we had to make these Mad Hatter hats as indestructible as we possibly could. And so we had like a top that we created the cone and the shape so that it had this tapering effect to it. There's a lot of steps involved. The materials you use are flexible. Hats are made out of so many things, including straw, etc. But yes, I suggest you should try making hats, especially in cosplay. And it's okay to start with a base. If you already have a hat that fits your head, you can always build up and off of that too. Last time I let myself have a little bit of jagged edges when I was cutting out my silk because I was like, whatever, it's encapsulated in the inside. But this is sheer and I can see my jagged edges encapsulated in the inside. And so I have to be a little more delicate in my cutting this time. And so I am using my bent-handled shears, even if they're my giant ones that are meant for cutting denim, not necessarily silk. But I get to keep the fabric closer to the table so I'm not distorting it as much when I cut it out. I got it. Michael Schnell. So is there a garment you don't like making, so you just always just buy it? Okay, so I don't like making things unnecessarily if I don't have to. And a lot of times you can just already buy what you need already done. Granted, that's not always the case, especially working in costumes and having characters and things specifically in mind. You don't find things off the shelf necessarily, but if you know what you're looking for, you can find a lot of things at the thrift store. So I'm always open-minded to not making it as my first resort. I have a pink Power Ranger costume that I'm working on. I'm not making the pink spandex from scratch. I don't have to. I could. I don't need to. It's cheaper to buy it pre-made than it is to buy the fabric that it takes to make it, the thread that it takes to make it, and then all the energy, patterning, and time and effort that those steps would take. So buying the pink, I ended up getting thermal underwear, but not like the waffle printed one, more the microfiber, because the top was long enough that it would be pulled down to the skirt length dress that the pink Power Ranger has. And the pants were already made, and they were the right color, and they're the right size, and they're the right shape. Now I just have to add the white appliques on the top. So it's not that there's a specific garment that I don't like making. It's that I don't always feel like I have to start at square one for it to feel like it's my costume or my outfit. And usually the stuff that I make is things that I can't find already made. Like even Miss Frizzle, when I did Miss Frizzle for Smosh, in my head I was like, Miss Frizzle, she cut this out of felt, and it was arts and craft supplies that she makes her dresses every day, you know, kind of to go with the school theme. And so I purchased the skirt and the bodice, and then I decorated them. I didn't make them from scratch. I could have totally made them from scratch, but I didn't need to, so I didn't. I do enjoy making circle skirts, but it's not necessarily the garment that I would want to avoid making. It's whether it's more expensive to buy the fabric and make it from scratch than it is to buy the base garment and then turn it into what I need to. But good question. All right, this is one side. Okay. It gets quiet when I actually get things accomplished. Whew. Okay. All right. Michael Snell, what don't you like about this collar that you're remaking it? Good questions. I answered this when I very first started, so probably missed it. It's not laying nicely. I just did it without any sizing in it, so I just did the chiffon as the lightweight silky fabric that it was, and it shifted while I was sewing it. It was very drapey, and all the issues that you run in with silky drapey fabrics, they definitely appeared while I was working on that. And one of the things that I said that you could do to help with these issues was use some spray starch. So I'm using my own advice, and I am spray starching my collar. So now it's not as drapey. There's more of a crunch to it. There's more body or stability in the fabric. So it's going to not get all wonky like this. I also narrowed my seam allowances because I had 1/2 inch seam allowances when I really only needed 1/4 inch of seam allowances. And the extra seam allowance looks bulky and ugly in there. And then my top stitching is a little wonky because I have the wrong needle in there. And although it's sewed without skipping any stitches, it definitely pushed too much fabric into the base of it. So it made it it's not as nice and as flat and as pretty as I can make it. It looks a little sloppy and a little, ironing didn't save me from this problem. So it's not the worst, and I probably could make this work, but look at how ugly this edge is. It's just a little wonky. You can see this extra seam allowance through the sheerness of it. And when I was pressing it, so when you sew the seams together, they get sewed like this. They get sewn together, okay? And then you're folding it inside out, and you want it to lay flat with the stitches right on the edge once it's folded inside out with the seam allowance on the inside. Now, sometimes it gets pressed like this, and it looks like the fabric's on the inside. It did that a little bit too much. It wasn't pressing as nicely as I should. Granted, I could have pulled out my better ironing tools and probably did a better job, but it just was fighting me the entire time. And I was trying to keep my cool because, of course, I'm live and you guys get to see me do all of this. But it was a bit of a struggle, and so using starch, changing my needle on my sewing machine. I have to change my sewing machine needle. And yeah, starch and a better needle I think will fix my issues. But that's why I'm remaking it. But good question. Okay. Okay. Oh, don't apologize. No worries. Thank you for being here. Okay. All right. I really like the smell of spray starch. When you use it with a hot iron, starch is basically sugar, and when you start to iron it, it can caramelize. So you have to be really careful about starching white fabrics because they will change the shade of your white, especially more starch and more heat that you add. Ask me how I know. But it smells like caramel because you're caramelizing the sugar. So it's like a sweet, hot sugar smell. I like the smell of starch when it's being ironed. I like a lot of the smells when you're ironing. Clean laundry is like the best. I'm not a fan of like cupcake candles, but I am a fan of cotton candles, clean laundry, linen candles. Those I think are my happy place. Pretty edges, pretty edges. Pretty edges, come on, think pretty edges. Okay. All right, I gotta stand and cut. It's hard. I have to move around. Whew, that looks so much nicer. Okay. Round 2. Fight. Okay. these little extra pieces. They look like pattern pieces, and it's so easy to throw away the pieces that you need. Actually, I'm going to keep this over here so I can use it as a scrap to start practice stitching. Michael Smells, what are other projects that you are working on at the moment? Thanks. This one's my first priority, but I have the May the 4th outfit over there. I'm going to be working on that one on next Tuesday for a con crunch and just getting it over with, working on it. Nope, those are leather needles. I also have, stretch needles, not quite right, but I don't want to pull those out again. Not a double needle. Another leather needle? Jeez, I have lots of leather needles. When working with silky fabrics and lightweight sorry, it's hard to look and talk at the same time. Hold on. These are the ones I'm going to use. Okay. When you're looking at needles and you're working with silky fabrics, use sharps. Sharps are your friend all day long. Wait, aren't leather needles sharp? Yeah, but they have a triangular edge and they're stabbing it into the thing. Silks and leathers have different needs. You want this little sharp needles for silky fabric. Oops, I tightened it. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. There we go. Okay. But, okay, what other projects am I working on at the moment? I have another commercial coming up, but I don't know any information on that one as of yet. But as soon as I find out information, my brain goes on to commercial mode, and I'm not ready for that yet. I actually have tons of projects. Which ones am I currently working on? These ones. Yeah, back there is my box of untouched projects. Started ones. Those are some finished ones. And then there's, of course, fabric, where it's just like the possibilities of projects. Okay. All right, I have a fresh needle in. And I'm not sewing this edge because this edge is going to be sewn attached at this edge and it'll be close where I do that. I'm going to sew this edge and I'm doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance versus my normal 1/2 inch seam allowance. Hopefully everything's fine. Taking this corner slowly so I don't have that weird point like I did last time. Oh, here, let me put this back where it belongs. don't mess up my curve. Me. Okay, one side done. Let me do the other. The project box. I know that well. It's a fun box, isn't it? Okay. Dan does junk. Mine isn't in a box. It's in a pile. Multiple piles. Hey, I feel very accomplished that I was able to put mine into boxes. I do best with clear boxes because then I know what I have and then I don't lose them. Or make bigger messes trying to find them again. All right, let me get these pins out of here. Not top. Mine is a room. Have you guys seen? No, you guys have not seen. Shh, don't tell. The only reason mine's in a box rather than a pile is because I moved a few years ago and needed to put it in something. LOL. Right. Clear boxes are my friend, honestly. Clear boxes. Or bags. I also hang up project bags. I have a project bag right there. Oh, no, don't do that. Okay, what did I say? Oh, no, don't do. So remember how I told you it's pressing, not ironing? Ironing, if you push it, it will like move your fibers around. Well, I pushed it and it gave me a little wrinkle that I'm now pressing out. Okay. Let me make these edges a little bit prettier because, like I said last time, you can see them when you turn it inside out because it is a sheer fabric. Now, I'm not going to do my little wedges that I did last time because I did a narrow seam allowance instead. I relate to that so much. When I clean and organize things, I lose stuff. Yeah, can't find anything. I just cleaned up. I hate that feeling, but I know it all too well. Okay. There we go. That looks much better. I am already liking these better. Okay. Let me trim this side. I'm sure I've lost half the projects I've started. I don't think I'm that bad, honestly. But I definitely do lose motivation. Not gonna lie about that. talk and craft at the same time? What am I thinking? Okay. Look at these fabric straps. Should I keep them? I could use them for another project, right? Confetti. I feel like I can do a live stream where I just go through my projects bin, go, look at this one. Should I finish this one? Or even better yet, go through my fabric stash and be like, all right, let's make something. Okay. Press, press, press. I have to turn these inside out, but I am not... I'm going to try turning this one while it is damp. It is already turning so much nicer. I think the dampness and also the crunchiness is helping. Yeah. Well, learn from your mistakes. I wouldn't call them mistakes. It's not the end of the world, and I did it once, so now I can do it again and do it better this time. Sorry to distract you. Don't worry about distracting me. I sometimes prefer to be distracted for a minute or two. Okay. It is already finger pressing nicer than the other one. The narrow seam allowance does a huge difference, and so does using spray starch. So, use your tools and your job is significantly easier. The right tools for the job make the job easier, too. Yes. All right. Knocktop, what music would you be listening to if you weren't streaming? I generally put on summer music. Like I will tell Spotify play summer playlist and it will play the top 40 summer music. And that is what I would have on because at the wedding dress shop we had to have non-offensive music. And apparently most of the things I listened to was offensive. So I got in that habit because having poppy, upbeat music definitely keeps my mood better. Michael Snow. I bought some fabric when Pat Catan's went out of business. We'll do something with it someday, I hope. I know, I feel like I always need a project worthy of my fabric because I don't want to waste it on learning or on I don't want to screw up the fabric and waste it. I know it's crazy, but I get it. But I've been trying to go through my stash the best that I can. Oh my gosh, look how pretty this is. So this is the one, my new one that I redid. And this is my old one that I was like, it doesn't make me happy. I know it's white, but this is really drapey and flowy, and this has some crunch to it. The edges are kind of, I don't like the way they turned out as much. I already pressed these edges, and I like them already way better than I like these edges. Not that this one's like perfect, it's just this one wasn't up to par, let's just say. Okay. Dan does junk. I always play a loop of certain songs when watching yours and Odin's streams. It's called the Obstinate Love by Weiss. It's just a nice mellow techno jam. I might start using it as my background music on my boot videos. Nice. I know Odin likes to listen to non-lyrical music specifically. But I like having, I don't know, I like singing along. I like lyrics. DJ Stumpy, hi, somehow my notifications didn't work. Oh well, I'm here now, and it's looking good. Well, thank you, DJ Stumpy. Welcome. Yeah. I'm going to be going live tomorrow at 10-ish. I talked to Raul, and he's going to come over tomorrow at 10 for the live stream, and we're going to do all the fun parts. And now that these collars look much better, I feel like I'm in a much better spot, because I didn't like the way they turned out, and I like the way this one looks, so we are a much better spot already. Got to finger press it first, and then I'll do this. Smoosh it, and you smoosh it, and then it'll look rightish eventually. Alright, I know people like to trim their threads right away. I like using these threads because I can use them to pull tight and make sure that my seams are all straight. I know, I need to go through and trim my threads, and it's one of my big... Trimming threads makes things look so much more professional. It really does. What? Nice. Okay. Let me just finish pressing this. I want the edges to be as flat as I possibly can, and the more delicate I'm with this, the better it'll look. So, no pressure. We're just live and everybody's watching. It's okay though. Oh wow, that already, I feel much better. Part of me wants to try doing the scalloped edge that I wasn't able to do yesterday, but I don't think it'll make it look any better. I think a straight stitch would look really nice. I'm gonna go for a straight stitch. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it came unthreaded. Where? There it is. Okay. So I could put this thread in a cup and it would solve all of my issues about trying to, it doesn't go up here. It could go in a cup and then it wouldn't go all around the table like a crazy person, but Who says I'm not a crazy person? Okay. Let me do a little test stitch. Let me do it with a wide. Let's go with the happy medium. All right. All right, let me try that. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I like that. Okay, what am I doing? What am I changing? What are the settings that I'm doing? Okay, I have a straight stitch, and the length at default, when I turn it on, it tells me it's 2.5. If I turn it up to the widest, it goes up to 5. So when I was stitching it with the really thin, lots of stitches per inch, it just really smooshed up my fabric and made it, it's really nice and really pretty, but it was very unforgiving. So I wanted to do a little bit bigger of a stitch, but doing it the full length doesn't look that pretty. So I compromised and changed my stitch length to 3.5, so halfway there. And hopefully that'll look pretty. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Hold on. I don't want this. There we go. Let me press this. This is why I like having an iron right by my sewing machine. Press as you sew, press as you sew, press as you sew. Oh, look how pretty it turned out. This one has top stitching, this has no top stitching. Can't quite tell the difference, but it does change it significantly. Okay, let's see. That's funny. I like using copyrighted music, and when they send me a cease and desist letter, I can go around telling people about all the celebrities who've written me personally. That's funny. Okay. Michael Snow, what cons do you go to? The ones that I'm invited to, honestly. I haven't really gone to conventions until fairly recently. Odin invited me to SAC Anime, and I've been going there helping out with the cosplay repair booth for the last couple of years, off and on, depending on. I got sick one year. But that, and I'm going to a May the 4th event, and there was this tiny con that I went to that was in a dead mall that was really interesting. I don't know, the ones that I'm invited to, and not always all of those, but when I can go, I do enjoy it. It's fun. There's a thread in there I don't want to stitch in. Hold on. Okay. Sharp needles are your friend, people. Life's too short for a dull needle. Okay. A little wonky when it's not pressed. See that? Ew. That bothers me. This is why ironing makes a huge difference. Oh, what am I trying to rename? Oops. But not ironed. Ironed. Isn't it pretty? Michael Schnell, how often should I replace my needles? A fresh needle for every project is a good rule of thumb. Quilters will do a fresh needle for every project, so a blanket's worth of sewing is about a needle. Depends on your materials. Switch up your needles with your material. I don't tend to save my needles after they come out of my sewing machine. I tend to just throw them away and let them go. They're cheap enough to be replaced, because if you're having any issues with your sewing machine, the first thing you do is change your needle. You're skipping stitches, things are acting a little wonky. Your needle could have gotten bent being pulled through thick, heavy fabric, and that's why it's no longer going to sew nicely. And you can change the tension and adjust everything you want. Replacing the needle is going to be the thing that you need to do for so many issues. But a fresh needle for each project. Don't be skimpy on needles. Get a whole pack of universals, because universals work for everything from denim to knits, etc. Sharps for fabrics like this are really helpful, and ballpoint needles for knits are also helpful. But in general, if you don't want to even think about it, get universal needles in a mid or a in a variety pack where they have lightweight and heavyweight needles. But yes, good question. Oh, okay, let's see what these look like versus the old ones. Okay, so I'm going to leave the old one on this one and then put a new one. So, yeah, I think the sizing, i.e. the starch, the added stabilizer, the starch, just really made this collar come together so much nicer and prettier. Like, yeah. So, learn from my mistakes. Use your tools. Yeah, spray starch isn't going to mess with most fabrics. It's generally safe on, from synthetics to naturals, so you're not like really messing it up. It also washes out completely in the laundry, so you don't really have to worry about that. And these nice, pretty, crisp collar pieces. just really came together, and that it can be flowy and drapey by just rinsing out the sizing starch, whatever. Technical term, fancy term for it is sizing. Like if you buy a garment off the rack, it will have sizing added. And then when you wash it, it's not the same. It's without the sizing, but starch is technically like a square is technically a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. I think that's the best way I can put it. If I have not thoroughly confused you, I can do better. Now I'm happy. I feel much happier. These were like, they just looked a little janky. Like I should have used interfacing or inner lining, but I like the sheerness of it, so I wasn't trying to add too many layers. So instead of adding an interfacing or an inner lining, I added a starch. So I feel much better. Tomorrow, Raul will be here and we will get to decorate this. Although I do, before I go, want to mark where I want to put I want to call them pockets, but they're not pockets. The little hand holes where the hands go out. So I realized that my ribs are a little bit off. Not my ribs, but this rib is just below my line, and this rib is a lot below my line. So I need to mark where I need these armholes to go. All right, I have all these lines drawn in here. This line right here is my facing line, but this little line that's kind of tilted out is my princess seam line. And I want my, not pocket, but hand holes to be on the princess seam line between the two ribs. So I marked where the ribs ended up being. And then I am going to cut a piece of fabric that is wider than that so that I can then stitch around here and then fold it. It's going to be fun, but this is going to be a little bit complicated, and I just wanted to get an idea of where it was supposed to be so I can mark it and take it into account when we're adding all the figurines onto this dress. DJ Stumpy, there's an event I'm hoping soon here in the UK called Maker Central. Colin Furs and loads of other makers from different fields will be there. That sounds awesome. Can needles be resharpened like darts? I know it's different, but can they be resharpened? Yes. So you can sew through aluminum foil. Aluminum. Anyways, it can. You can also, the little, so you know those tomatoes that you stab your pins in and they have that little pepper or strawberry or baby tomato? It looks more like a strawberry to me because it's pointy. Anyways, that has little sands in it, so when you stab it in there, it gets the burrs knocked off of your needle to resharpen them. If you want to save needles, use your bad needles for sewing paper, for plastic, for the heavy-duty fabrics, for your junk stuff, for your practice sewing, for your playing around, so you're not damaging your good new needles. But needles are one of those cheap things with sewing that is just easy enough to get a fresh needle. You know, like a lot of sewing machine issues can be solved with changing the needle without having to take your sewing machine in to get serviced. Just changing the needle fixes 80% of your sewing machine problems. I wouldn't say 100% or 90%, but it definitely does help. So you can resharpen them. No, it's not worth it. Just get new needles. Just get a new needle. Welcome, Ralph Mork. Okay, so I have been doing this for long enough now. I got my collars done. I'm kind of ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow, Raul Gonzo. I call him Gonzo. I call him Raul interchangeably. In my head, apparently, it's all mushed up. But Raul Gonzo will be coming onto my live stream tomorrow around 10 a.m.-ish, so not quite as early as I have been going. And yeah, so that'll be tomorrow. DJ Stumpy, off you. I hate throwing things away. Thank you. Well, I give you permission to throw away old ugly needles, but you can use them for sewing paper, for practicing, for sewing through unconventional fabrics and fibers and, you know, things that you're sewing like you wouldn't want to use a nice needle for. So, but you also have permission to just throw them away and use a fresh needle because your sewing machine will thank me. But tomorrow, we'll have fun. I'll see you then. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. I'm glad I redid the collars because now I feel much better about how nicely they're laying and how everything's all lining up, and I can get behind this. I want to like it. I feel like if I starched it now, I could probably make it a little bit better, like saving it. Here, let me see if I can. I know I'm trying to say goodbye and I'm over here. Hold on. I really don't like my seam allowance in this. It's just too much, too bulky, and I can see all my little cuts on it, but still. But people, this is why you starch your shirts. It makes everything so much more crispy. Ah, don't do that. Yeah, I'm really glad I redid these collars because I still don't like them. It's not the worst, but my two issues were that it was drapey and got all shifty when I was sewing it. I needed a smaller needle because the edges were getting pushed into my sewing machine. So even though I was narrow, it was getting too close to the edge and gave me kind of this wonky edge, especially right here. Like I don't like it right here. And I narrowed the seam allowances because they're so bulky and now they're nice and clean. So 1/4 inch seam allowance versus a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate you all being here. Until next time.